Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have the opportunity to work on an Okuma spinning reel. This is the Stratus ST65, an 8-ball bearing fishing reel. It's been well used. All of the paint essentially is worn off of all of the plastic caps and the like. This one came in for a tune-up, and it also said it has an issue with the sloppy handle here, movement in it. That usually means that there's a little washer on the back end of this plate here, and the screw cap, and this is a screw cap, it's broken off, and that gives you a little too much slack and kind of allows for that in and out movement because it's not pulling it tight. Well, we'll see. We'll see what we can do to make that go away or improve. Well, we're going to take this reel apart. We're going to show you how it's made. We're going to show you how to service this reel, how to put it back together again and keep it fishing. To do that, we're going to remove the exterior parts, and as I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like the art of fishing reel and repair, if you like see how they're made, if you like the idea of servicing them, maybe as a hobby or just to learn more about them. Well, subscribing to my channel and then hitting the notification button is the best way to let you know when I'm posting, so that you can make a choice as to whether you want to watch that or not. Now, I started by removing the adjuster cap, the spool, and now I'm taking out this click ring and spool height adjuster washer, and I'm doing that because when you look underneath on how to remove the side plate, it's partially hidden by the rotor, so the rotor has to come off first. There are some fishing reels, well, the side plate ends below the rotor. You do not need to do this. In this case, you do. We're going to take the little screw that's the tie-down screw that's going to hold this nut from moving. Find the right wrench. It's a 14 millimeter, I think. Yep, it's a 14 millimeter. And notice on here, it's telling you that it's reverse threaded. It says on, go this way, off, go that way. So it goes against the traditional threading. And as soon as I get the nut broken from the hold, I like to take it off by hand just so I get a feel for it, whether the things are okay or not. And then we can remove this. There's a big rotor inside here. It's a little bit dirty. And you can see that this has got an earlier anti-reverse bearing or clutch. This one's probably been around a while. You can see some of the paint's bubbling on it. A lot of the paint is lost. With regards to the bail, you do not need to service the bail. That is, remove the bail wire and everything, unless it's not working properly. A little bit of oil into the seams and on the line roller is fine. And underneath here, make sure that it's clean. And you can put a little bit into that little Z-bar there that is the trip lever. I'm going to set that aside. Then we'll find out how to take the rest of this off. So we've already removed the screw that holds the handle. The handle is going to go into the tray next. And got a couple of things going here. We have an assembly here that's holding the bearing, the anti-reverse clutch in place, and then we have 3 screws that are holding the bearing in place. I'm more concerned right now with just getting the base off, but let's go ahead and take that bearing cap off. The 3 screws are wide heads, so that the lip of the screw is actually holding that bearing in place. And then as I'm looking at how this other one is mounted to the case, it just appears that there's only 2 of the screws holding it to the case, so you would not need to remove all these other faceplate covers for this old style AR clutch. And if you do, just beware. This old style clutch has a lot of springs and balls in there, and well, it just becomes a mess if you open that case up. We're going to see if the 2 of these take it out or if I have to remove 2 others. Pull that one, pull the one on this side, And we'll see if that does it. Well, it doesn't. So now I'm looking, if you can see a space in here, you know a screw is not going through. So I'm looking, I have a screw and a screw here. And here. And I'm thinking I have another one on the other side. So far all these screws are the same. That's why I'm laying them on my table here. And let's see if we can get it off now. No, there's still one in there somewhere. Here it is. Let's try this one. Wow. There's enough of them. I think they kept the screw business in profit mode for a while. And let's bet that this one too. Wow. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws holding this case on. Now it should come off. There we go. And that's coming off with all kinds of things now. So we have the anti-reverse clutch. I'm going to pull the pinion gear out this way. We have the bearing. And we have 6 screws that hold it into place. This is a good place to tell you if you are trying to service a reel. Take pictures along the way. Those pictures will be very helpful in the reassembly, such as the orientation on that. All right, this is just floating now. That's fine. Let's take the 4 case screws out. Looks like they were loosened up. My guess might be that they got loosened up and then they couldn't get the case off because it was buried underneath, and kind of gave up on it there. Also looks like at one point this reel had an anti-reverse override on it that may have snapped off. We'll find out. I'm looking here at that little override piece. So 8 ball bearings. I see one of them so far, or maybe one in the line roller 2. Count the clutch 3. We're still looking for a few. I'm taking the screws out and I'm laying them on my desk here. I want to make sure that they're all the same. They're not. The lower case screw here is longer. I think what we have to do now is line that up. I'm going to pull this off. Okay, work it so that you can align that and then pull it off. Those pieces can go into my parts tray. These are going to go into my parts tray as well. I was using that pliers for a little bit of an assembly issue. Now we can take off our side plate. Here's another one of those bearings. These are bearings. You want to test it. It's running fine. Soak it with oil. It's a shielded bearing. It's not a sealed bearing. Put that right back in the case. Set that off to the side. Next up, we want to remove the 2 set screws here that are holding on the axle shaft. So it's a big surf reel. I understand it's been a good reel for a long time. It's just in time for service from a fellow who doesn't get it serviced very frequently. But you know what? It doesn't look dirty. It doesn't look terribly damaged or anything. Pull that axle shaft up. You can see that the grease is coagulated on the surface of the shaft. That all kind of needs to get cleaned up. We'll use a paper towel for that. Put that into my parts tray. Actually, it's a good idea if you want. Take the 2 small screws that you took out and put those right in there. You won't lose them. And then you put it in the parts tray. You won't confuse them with another series. There's been a lot of screws on this reel, so you can save yourself the effort of confusing them. That works out well too. Well, if you have any question on this reel or any reel in particular, if you want to know a little bit more about it, or maybe running into a problem with your servicing of it, then go ahead and leave that question in the comments section. I'll try and answer it for you. Notice that there's a little spring clip here. Don't lose that. That spring clip is going to get buried in the case, and that spring clip is for the tension on your AR override. The only thing is the AR override's got a switch, but it doesn't have a spring associated with it, so we're going to see if that actually works or not when we get done with the servicing. The reel is pretty dry. I would say that most of the greases and oils have evaporated from that. Here's the piece that's getting jammed in there with that handle issue, and my guess is that's probably why. It's probably been compressed, and that compression has kept it away from tightening up on the handle all of the way. To clean out the cavity on your crosswind block, we're going to set that right here because we're going to be reassembling this reel. It's a fairly simple reel from a design standpoint. I haven't seen 8-ball bearings yet, but I see 1, 2, 3, which is about what makes sense. I imagine they have them in the spool, and they have them other places where they have less value to them. But we'll see. There's a race for a while there. How many bearings could you stick in there, sort of like angels on a pin? I've seen reels with a lot more. I expected to see a bearing under here. That's not the case. And we're going to just oil the bearing in the back of this as well. Clean off this, and we'll just reassemble the lower part of this reel. You want to make sure that you check all of the teeth, that they're uniform and clean, not cracked or broken or chipped in any regard. A little bit of grease onto the back. That's going to ride in that case. A little bit into the hole, which is going to ride on the stud. Get grease into the teeth. These teeth are driven by the cog on the back of the main gear, the small piece. And this is what makes the axle shaft go up and down. Once you've greased that up pretty well, reassemble that onto the stud. Move that piece all the way to the bottom of the stud, and then get some grease on the rest of the case. Next up then, we can go ahead and put the crosswind grease on the back side. You do not need to grease the front side. It's not touching anything. It's not a moving part there. You probably could put a little bit here. I think that may run against the case. And then let's go ahead and put that over the stud. And I guess I don't have enough reach. I thought I would have the reach here. I don't. So before I put that back in, let's go ahead and take the little copper washer and the tie-down screw for the crosswind block, the crosswind gear, before we go any further. Okay, now I can put that back in. It's all freshly greased. Check the back of your main gear just like we did, and again, that's bone dry. So if anything, I guess the greases and the oils here have evaporated. There wasn't even a lot of grease nestled in on the side. The side plates themselves are grease-free. So it kind of says whatever came from the plant. It's probably the last time this reel was greased. And there's not much left of it. All right, a little bit onto the teeth that are going to drive the others, and a little bit onto the back end, which goes through that bearing. All right, we can just take this hole, put that right back in there. And we can come up top then, and this is kind of an odd way to do it, but we can come up top, put this back in. You have two options here. You can do it this way, which is the way we took it out and close the case up. Or you can go ahead up top and install that bearing assembly. I think that's what we'll do. We'll just going to put that off to the side for a moment. Let's go back and put this bearing case into effect. So the orientation on this is pretty straightforward. I did notice there is a spring on this anti-reverse here. You want to locate... Oh, got to do a couple of things here. Let's clean off the pinion gear. There is some old grease on the pinion gear, so let's get that out of the way. You're doing the same thing here that you did with the main gear. You're checking the orientation of the slots, you're making sure that they're nice and clean, that you get all the old grease out of it. Once you do that, go ahead and put the grease back on. Give it a good amount of grease, and the grease where the bearing is going to go. You should be able to seat this now. Into the case. This is kind of an odd way to do things, but we're doing it this way for fun, I guess. Then you have your anti-reverse assembly, and the light goes there. Find your anti-reverse override. That's going to line up with the hole here. Okay, it looks like my battery pack died, and I'm going to have to apologize. I was just going through this. I decided I was going to add the axle shaft and then put this on. So we'll see if we can walk this back just a little bit here. So the axle shaft is on. You need to align this, and then you're looking for the merge point on the anti-reverse and the override here. And then you're also looking to make sure that these points for those long screws line up. So let's go ahead and put those back on to tie this down now. So we know that these four kind of go north, south, east, west. We want to get those out of the way first. And what we didn't do here, we didn't open up that anti-reverse ball roller bearing mechanism, nor did we oil it. It's a friction-driven system. It doesn't need that. And that's one of those where you just leave it alone. Okay. And we know we got east and west here. So overall, this is a relatively simple reel. I still am kind of missing some of the ball bearings that they say go here. But that doesn't surprise me. Again, there's probably four of them in the spool there or something. Okay, now I'm looking through the holes to find out where the other screws go. And I think we got it. Okay, the tie-down screws are in place. We have the 3 screws now that hold the bearing on, and if we've forgotten to oil our bearing, we can do that. I oil the bearings. I don't use grease on bearings. All right, these are the 3 flathead screws now. This looks like a screw salesman's dream here. How many screws can I sell you to use in a fishing reel? What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 up top here. 3 or 4 in the case. Seems like they could have done better somehow. All right, there's 2 more of these flathead screws which are holding the bearing down. I don't know when this reel was made, but judging by the paint loss, I'm going to guess that this reel's at least 5 or more years old. I don't think it's part of the current lineup. To me, I would say that it appears to be a medium range, somewhat entry-level reel. That would be a guess. All right, let's get the other 3 of these side plate screws now. Well, 2 of them we can get. This is the long one. Well, that one can't go in yet. I think what we want to do right now is just put this bigger shield back on. Set it to the pointing so that it can slide under. And you want to snap this in And remember, this is the opposite of the way it came out here, so there you go. That's a nice snap in. And now we know one of those smaller screws belongs here to hold down that piece of the case. We know that the long screw belongs down here, but there's a little hole on this cap, so let's go ahead and put that one in. There's two studs that go here and one cap hole. Let's get that in. It's coming back kind of the way it started. A little bit tighter. I think they left them proud on me. I think maybe what happened here was that they started the piece, figured out they couldn't get the case off, and kind of just left it. Get this side back on. We want to get the rotor next. We've oiled the seams of the bail. That's all you need to do. Square this up. Remember, this is a reverse thread, so you're going to go counterclockwise or threading it towards you to get this one seated. It's always interesting when you have muscle memory that wants to turn it the other way. And you want to get your 14mm wrench and give that a little bit of a tighten. Still a long way to go here. Then once you got it snug, you need that screw that's the hold down screw for this. And then we'll put that click ratchet and spool adjuster on. Then we'll go over and take a look at the drags. So this is a D-shaped axle shaft, so find the flat side to mount that click lever. And then same thing with the spool height adjuster. Both of those go on. We can go put the handle on, and what we want to do is we want to find a washer. And while I was changing that battery, I found a washer. We'll see if that one washer is enough to shim up the play in this handle. Put the handle in from this side. Go ahead and screw this on. Now these are all plated, some kind of a metallic paint, but Saltwater has no doubt has taken its toll on all of that and worn that down for sure. All right, there's no play in the handle now at all, so it's probably just that little shim washer was all that it took there. Let's go up top here and solve the drag washer set. Again, if the bottom hasn't been serviced, you know the drag washers have a high probability of not being serviced. Those little pieces are going to go into my parts tray as well. I have I use a fast food container just to hold my parts, and it's worked for me. Whatever works for you, that's what you should be using. Collar, little rubber grommet, kind of try to keep the seawater out of it. Notice the two studs. There's two sides of it. Just point up the one that you know is the upside. These are probably felt drag washers. They are. And there's a lot of them in here. So this reel's got a lot of max drag. Take our paper towel, clean out the old greases. Now I oil felt washers. You want to keep them flexible. If they dry out, they'll become problematic and break or tear. So a good amount of fishing reel oil is kind of what's required there. And these have that same D shape in the metals. So I'm going to start by putting these on the reel so that I can keep these aligned as I add the drag stacks. Let me show you. The first one I oiled was inside. You may not have seen it, but just a good amount of oil there. Place that on top. Now these alternate eared washers and keyed washers. This is an eared washer. It goes in the slots. We have another washer here we'll put on. Making sure that it's oiled. Next one up is another one of these D-washers. These D-washers are kind of hard to align when you have the stack on the spool. That's why I do it this way. You can do it off the spool, but you're going to have to rotate the spool, and sometimes they jam. It's just easier to do it this way. There's no right or wrong way. One or the other will work fine. Put the last of the D-washers in, and we're going to set that little rubber seal. Press it down all the way. This is a flat piece. I guess this is the only part where if you're putting it onto the reel this way, it's a little bit more difficult to get the screws started. But a little bit of patience, you'll be able to do that. So what have we done so far? We've taken the reel completely apart. We've cleaned the pieces. We've inspected them. The reel came in for a service, but also had an issue with the handle, where the handle was loose. And it seems like the handle was loose because it was missing one of the little washers that would be a spacer to allow the screw to pull it in tight. And we found that. Found the replacement for it. We didn't find that spacer. That spacer probably got over tightened and just shredded. But we're good with that now. We're going to put the last of the tie-down screws in for the collar. There were 2 of those. Then we'll give it the test before we turn it loose. All right, this is your star adjuster, or your adjuster knob, I guess it would be the term. Let's tighten that up. Make sure that it's tight. It's nice and tight there. Back it off. If you don't back it off, you're going to squeeze the oils out of those drags. They're going to dry out faster, and well, they can act up accordingly. All right, nice tight handle. Let's give it a spin. You know what? That's a very nice smooth reel. I didn't check that spool there to make sure that the bearings weren't in there. I'm going to guess that's where the extra bearings were. Maybe, I'm sure there's probably one in that handle there. But other than that, this reel's ready to go fishing again. So this is the Okuma Stratus ST65. Oh, that's right on the point, isn't it? There you go. And seems to be running fine with a nice tune-up, ready to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you do to keep us safe. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.